like a glove. Feel that adrenaline rush. No time.
Happy Saturday and welcome to the Leadoff on the PeakOneSports Network, brought to you by Apogee Graphics. You're taking your vision to new heights. Go to apogeegraphics.com and use promo code PEAK1 for 10% off your order. I'm Ashton Nix, ready to get you ready for this sports weekend. Thank you for listening, however you're tuning in. We're going to talk Cowboys, college football, and more. But first, say goodbye to unruly behavior and hello to a well-mannered pup. The Dapper Dog Academy stands out as a top-notch canine training institute located in Cleburne and serving the DFW Metroplex. You can contact Corey at the Dapper Dog Academy or on Facebook and call and schedule your consultation today. All the info is in the description box below. Again, thanks for listening. If you're watching on PeakOneSports, checking us out on the Coach's Box or however you listen to podcasts. All right, let's bring on the other half of the Leadoff morning show. Tony, what's going on after Friday night football?
Yeah, actually a little refreshed. Man, seeing that such an exciting game last night between Saginaw and Pascal here in Fort Worth.
The Saginaw Rough Riders of Saginaw High School, 7-0. Down.
They reeled off 23 unanswered points in the second half to win.
Yeah, 31-13 at halftime wins, winning 39-31. Just an incredible comeback. Exciting season for Saginaw, who I believe went 1-9 last year when we were covering them, and 7-0, first place in district, and they get a little bit of room now because they beat past the Pascal Panthers. Pascal's in second place, so they have the 1-game lead, plus tiebreaker, virtually a 2-game lead. And then Chisholm Trail also winning last night, so that may set up to be an interesting matchup in the final week.
An exciting race, but Chisholm lost to Pascal, correct?
Yeah, and they lost another district game, so they have 2 district losses. So really, it's Saginaw's to win. They control their own destiny, obviously. So Chisholm Trail needs to win the next 2 games before they play Saginaw. And I think they need to rely on Saginaw to lose one, and then Chisholm can come and steal it, assuming, Arlington Heights, I think, is in third place in that district. So Chisholm needs some work, needs some help as well.
They're also coming off of a 2 or 3 win season last year as well. So
yeah, Chisholm Trail. And then we also cover Eagle Mountain, who they're 3-4 now, but this is their first season ever. Huge win over Burke Burnett last night. It's like a 3-possession. I don't remember the final score. 3-possession game. They're 3-4, which they're just playing pretty good. We'll be covering them this Friday coming up, Eagle Mountain. So a lot of fun stuff in Texas high school football on the PeakOneSports Network.
Well, you have to have some fun in Texas high school football because our professional football is abysmal right now.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. And normally I think we don't like talking about it when this happens, but it's so bad that we just have to talk about it. And we know y'all want to hear about it because the content we've been posting has been getting a lot higher ratings when it has to do with the Cowboys. So we're going to get into that. So, but it's definitely a challenge doing live sports. It's fun and simple doing these podcasts. We go from, producing live sports to just, doing this, and it's a lot more fun, but it's a great time of year to cover high school, Friday night football, college football, and then professional football. But speaking of professional football, let's dive right into that Cowboys Lions game. Absolute train wreck. I mean, we were kind of on it talking about it's going to be an offensive game. The Cowboys offense has to step up. Their defense is what it is. I said if the defense could hold the Lions to a couple of field goals, maybe a punt or 2 throughout the game, you would call it successful for the defense. They weren't able to do that, but it didn't matter because the offense could never get it going. Being held without a touchdown, more of the same this season. I don't see how you pay your quarterback is the highest paid player in the history of the NFL. Your wide receiver is the second highest wide receiver paid. You get them done this offseason. Dax, an hour before the season starts.
This offseason, loosely, Dax came down to the last
I was
hour.
gonna say the last hour, if you want to count it is the off season. I don't know if you count preseason as off season, but either way, you get them done this year, and arguably the worst starts to their careers. If you would say, I know Dak a couple of years ago had a really interception ridden season where he just had the yips or something, and something was wrong. He followed it up with an MVP like season last year, and then he's just not playing. I mean, before last week, I wouldn't say, man, he's not playing bad. It's just not great.
Well, you text me, I think it was somewhere around halftime of that game Sunday, and said, "I hope the Cowboys don't come back and make this a close game
Yeah, unless
because
they win,
all
which
it's
is
doing is
obviously.
Dak's padding stats so that later he can use against everyone, and Jerry can come back and say, well, it was a close game.'"
Yeah, exactly. I know in the moment we're like, they're just padding, garbage stats. It doesn't help the week after even that season. But you
Yeah.
look back, you're like, well, Dak had a pretty good season. And like, well, no, um,
No,
just the
he
same
trailed by
against.
30 in most of his games, and then they're pulling off, which is something Detroit did not do. Detroit
Yeah,
did not pull. They were pulling out more trick plays. They
yeah.
were making sure that the Cowboys had no shot to come back.
And I'm one to say if you don't, I haven't heard a lot of people say this is crap, this is dirty, or anything like that, because I think most Cowboys fans are frustrated more at Jerry Jones and the
Mhm.
organization than they are at the Lions. But even on that note, if you're tired of them scoring, stop them.
Yeah,
That's all
exactly.
you have to do. I know there was frustration on the Lions' part from last year's game, but no, back to the point. Like unless they were going to come back and win, I didn't want any excuse where similar to the Ravens game where the Ravens just stopped playing defense
Mhm.
to say, well, you get one thing here or there, you're gonna, like, no, you need like 12 things to go here or there. 49, was it 47-9? I didn't even type in the score. It doesn't matter. Um, multiple possession game. You knew it was over by halftime. Score wise, I don't think it was actually over by halftime, but you knew like, okay, this is
Well, you
how it's
could tell by the body language, you could tell by the play. Um, this is obviously not the team we saw last season. I've defended the Cowboys a lot in past years. Even coming into this season, is you have the best offensive roster. Like, you could not put a better offensive group out there, barring maybe, we've talked about it last week with Derrick Henry. You could have upgraded your running back. Obviously, there's some holes, some issues with this young offensive line, but I mean, you've got a pretty good receiving core. You've got Dak. You've got, like, you should be able to do. I've seen teams win with less,
yeah.
and this team hasn't been able to figure that out. And I've defended them up until this week, when I will no longer defend the Cowboys. I will no longer give Jerry Jones my money. This team is atrocious. Jerry continues to tell us the same thing over and over and over is, oh, we're all in. We're all in. Yeah, we're doing it. Oh, we're this close. We're this, a couple changes here, a couple things here, and this is a completely different season. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if he's not trying to win one, but he sure isn't making the moves that he really wants to win a Super Bowl.
Man, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, he's also mentioned, he's like, you have to take injuries as a factor. And what's funny is nobody's really blaming the defense that much. We get it. Parsons is out, Lawrence is out. You have a lot. Bland is out. We don't care. If they're all back, what do they only give up 30 something points? It doesn't matter. We're talking about the offense only
Mhm.
scoring 9. I don't care who you have. I don't care if everybody's perfectly healthy. You weren't holding that Detroit team to under 9 points. There was no chance. We're talking about the overpaid offense, the offensive lines not doing great. I mean, they've put a lot of resources into it, and you can see. I mean, they have young guys. Zach Martin's getting old. You fine, but the lack of effort into the running back, I get it. We talked about Derrick Henry, like you said. What would Derrick Henry do behind the offensive line? I don't know. It can't be worse though, but do something. That's what it's like. Jerry Jones, go, uh, famous this week, even more famous for threatening a radio show host and threatening his job. basically, and in that same interview saying, "What do you want me to do? If you have a answer to this, you're the smartest person in the world. You should be a GM." It's like I don't know what I want you to do, but do
You know what?
something.
I would take a lot of people off the street as my GM than I would Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones has never, to me, proven, even as a Cowboys fan and a supporter for decades, for my entire life, Jerry Jones has never proven to me that he was an actual GM.
I
He's not a talent evaluator.
Yeah, I the best.
For
I don't
God's
claim
sakes,
to be
he
good.
he really thought he really put effort into looking at, will I take Johnny Manziel? He liked Johnny Manziel and really thought that could be a game changer.
Yeah. Um, I the best GM I can claim to be is on Madden, on video games. So, but when I can tell you it's not going to work with Zeke, Zeke can't be your main guy. He can't be your second guy behind Dowdle. You have to do something. I don't know if Henry's the answer. Uh, I can tell you for sure it's not ignoring it and just not drafting anybody. Just throw some. I know you have other holes. I know you have other holes, but when you're talking about round 4 or 5, which I don't think they had a 4th round pick because that was a Trey Lance pick, I think. But when you're talking about round 5, 6, so you're throwing darts at a dartboard anyways. You need a running back. Pick a running back. Tell me who on this roster, because I don't have it in front of me. Literally tell me who they drafted in the late rounds that's putting up a better effort than a possible running back could have. Don't tell me, well, no, who is there? Like, who's there in
Yeah,
general?
what hole did you fill with that draft pick is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
just
Yeah.
throw something. You had opportunities to we already talked about Derrick Henry. Whatever's going to happen, I don't know. That probably wouldn't have panned out as well. But he's having a good season. You had Saquon Barkley. I don't know how realistic that could have been. You could have done something. You chose not to do anything. You can say it's because you couldn't afford it because you hadn't done anything with CD or Dak. Well, hey, go back to what do we know as GMs? We've been telling you to do that since last year. Don't wait till the last minute. Get it done now. Then you can open up the cap space now. You could probably get them for a little cheaper. You're not going to have to wait for them to hold out.
Mhm.
I don't even know why he signed Dak in the last hour. If Dak was going to play, let him play. I think uh, it depends how you look at it. You're happy Dak got signed if you want him. If you're not, you're like, man, his price just dropped probably 5 million a year after you've seen him play so far this year.
That's right. No,
Uh, and now
Jerry
you're
could have gotten a steal after what we've seen so far from now. I'll give Dak some credit. He's trying. He's not getting a lot of time with this offensive line. He's struggling there, but last season was an anomaly. Previous to that, he has struggled. There's always been a question on him is, can he be that guy?
yeah,
Well, it's even worse when he's not mobile enough to keep himself protected with this offensive line.
he's he's having a great, amazing career for a 4th round pick that nobody expected anything out of. But the problem with Dak is he's the highest paid quarterback, the
Mhm.
highest paid player in history. He has been a top 5, 6, 7 paid player for the last 6 years. Uh,
And why do you
you have
pay
to hold a higher standard.
why do you pay your quarterback number 1 money? Why would you give him money to be the highest paid quarterback? Because you
And that's what
expect that he can do the job, that he can take
yeah.
over and make things happen for you.
And maybe they had a question at the end of last year whether they should or shouldn't, whether Dak was our guy because he had an off year the year before last where he threw so many interceptions. But that's when you 1 year left on your
Well,
contract
let's
or well,
go back to the Jerry. You started talking about it, with, obviously Sean Sharif here locally at 105.3 The Fan,
yeah,
and that whole morning show that, he went off on those guys, and, by now everyone's heard the clips, if not the entire interview. Um, from Stephen A, Shannon Sharp, Dan Orlovsky, everybody on ESPN, everyone you've heard have their input, and I haven't heard anyone that's wrong.
yeah.
There is a serious
It's
problem.
not a divisive issue at all.
There's a serious problem in Dallas, and I think the Cowboys organization is much more toxic
Yeah.
than you wanna even give them credit for. Uh, I think this is a lot worse than anyone sees on the surface.
it's not a divisive issue. Anybody not with the last name Jones, or maybe a few people in the organization, if they're even going to tell you the truth, have Jerry's back on this.
Yeah.
Um, just the, I mean, we all know he has an ego. That's fine, whatever. And I'm not so sure that if you put a microphone in front of any owner's face every single week, they're not going to say crazy stuff too. But he asked for this. He wanted the spotlight. He wanted the interviews. Part of that is answering hard questions.
Mhm.
And for the most part, Cowboys have been a successful franchise even in the last 30 years. I mean, they're not the Raiders, they're not the Jaguars, they're not, not the Panthers right now. Even though all of those franchises have made a Super Bowl or a conference championship game in the last 30 years. But every year they're competing. So I think you're frustrated and you don't give him those hard questions. But after, what's happened this year,
What's
it's
happened
not
for
like,
2 decades? He's been
yeah,
telling us the same crap for 2 decades, and we keep taking it. "Oh, yeah, next year's our year. Next year's our year. Next
we're
year's our
all in.
year."
Yeah. And you can say all you want about, well, what would you have done? It doesn't matter what we had done when we called this. Everybody called this, said you're not doing anything. Zeke's not going to work as you need a running back. You need this,
Mhm.
and it's all coming to fruition. We're like, I don't know what we would have done, but we called it.
Yeah, we
You
were
could have
telling
done
you in
something.
June
Yeah.
you had a problem, and you're not making any moves. You're not in the mix of any of these free agents. You know, it's
Nothing at the trade deadline. Nothing at the trade. Do something. I don't care. I don't
really
care if it'll.
frustrating.
It's right. He's right. There's not some magic fix you can do going into the bye week trade deadline. There's not, but do something.
But what has he done for 20 years? You can't blame, "Oh, well, what do you want me to do now?" Well, what have you done for the past 20 years? You haven't produced the championship caliber team that you told us you were trying to get.
Yeah. Cowboys have scored 126 points this season. Kicker Brandon Aubrey is responsible for 60 of those points. Your kicker has scored nearly half of
Nearly
your
half.
offensive points from the, two of the top paid offensive players uh in the league. Let's move on to more positive stuff. Okay, we've been saying it for a long time. Don't bet with your gut. Check with Betalytics and get help making your picks. Betalytics uses AI algorithms to run the numbers and make your most accurate picks possible. I do have a parlay coming up tomorrow, a 5-leg parlay. None that have to do with the Cowboys, fortunately, because they're on a bye week. But you can use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to betalytics.com to start betting smarter. Okay, let's talk some college football. We're going to bring back a familiar segment that we haven't done in a while, the thread, because we saw these uniforms. Illinois is going to wear their 1920s throwback uniforms versus Michigan, and I don't know if it's the Cowboy negativity or what. Typically, especially in the NFL, I hate it when they wear these. You'll see in a minute, ugly ass uniforms, but I don't think they look too bad. Maybe it's college football. Maybe I'm trying to feel a little more pessimistic. Let's sit here, bring this up, move us out of the way. So here's the uniforms they're going to wear and a screenshot of the actual uniforms from the 1920s popping up. Why don't I hate these uniforms? I feel like I should.
When I first saw these scrolling through, it might have been TikTok or Instagram or something. I actually thought that these are like some of those AI generated,
Yeah.
like, you put in and they'll pop out images. I thought this was some type of AI generated because of the helmets. And that helmet graphic is insane.
So when I was scrolling through, I thought it was like a Guardian cap. Because they have it that they have
Mhm.
the helmet design where it looks like the old time helmet, which I guess is kind of like a Guardian cap, and that's what caught my eye. And man, I don't know why I like these uniforms because you go back to the Green Bay uniforms,
Mhm.
the Bumblebee Steelers uniforms. Like I don't know why they do it. Maybe it's because
The
old
Giants are the Giants
Giants.
are
Yes,
bringing out a very similar uniform this year, like this one.
yeah. It's I like them. I hope they compete against Michigan. I hope this is a good game to watch because I kind of want to watch this. I hope this is a national or a game in our region that we can watch today. I don't have time for that. A time for that kickoff because I know we have a lot of games, pretty good games this week. But yeah, 24 Michigan at 22 Illinois. Illinois is doing pretty good this year, so they're actually ranked higher than Michigan. So, but man, those are
That game is 2:30 CBS, Paramount Plus.
Okay, good. Because I know we have number 1 Texas, number 5 Georgia. That's a 6:30 kickoff in Austin. College game day is there. That's going to be a good game. I think that's kind of
In that game, Michigan is by 3.5.
their favorite. Is it in Illinois or is it in Michigan?
It's at Illinois.
That's odd. It's at Illinois, and they're ranked higher. It's a road game for Michigan. I mean, not that I wouldn't say, okay, Michigan should be. I haven't watched much Illinois football. I know Michigan's kind of, but it is Michigan. But that's odd when you're on the road ranked lower that you're going to get. I guess it was the same with Texas A&M and Missouri. I know Texas A&M was at home, but Missouri was ranked 9th or 10th, and Missouri was only. I don't think Missouri was.
You want
favored.
to see an odd college stat? Tulsa at Temple, 1:00 today on ESPN Plus.
Tulsa at Temple. Okay,
Tickets as low as $11.
at Temple. Temple is that Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Is that where they're at?
So, and
Temple
then number 7 Alabama at number 11 Tennessee on ABC ESPN Plus. Tickets as low as $333. What a jump. $11 to $333.
I mean, it's not surprising though. It's an oddity that you're saying you can get college tickets to. To Tulsa and who was it? Temple, Tulsa and Temple. I mean, those are Division I college. That's legit college football, but it's not SEC. What are the Georgia Texas? I think those are like $400. Or let's talk about Texas A&M tickets.
Yeah,
Like
those
cheapest
you can't even
get are like
touch. You have to get into a
You can get
raffle.
them at all.
Yeah, you have to get into a raffle to get those.
It was like upper level at the 50-yard line was like $600.
So Texas and Georgia, it's number 5 Georgia at Texas, number 1. 6:30 on ABC. $418, the lowest ticket price you can find.
Yeah, if it was feasible to go to a Temple Tulsa game,
And in that
that
game,
wouldn't be bad. Just go for $11.
Texas by 5.
That's the spread now.
Yeah.
Are they?
Are you taking the over here? 57.5.
I mean, this is going to be. Yeah, I'll take it because that's not that much. I mean, that's like a 35, 22, 32, 25 game. This is the first real test for Texas, I think, because we thought it was Michigan. Michigan's still a good team. Oklahoma's a pretty decent team, but this is their first real test, and we'll find out. I think they're going to cover because they just moved the spread from 3.5 to 5.5, and that has nothing to do with Georgia not looking good or Texas looking better. That was because everyone was taking Texas. So they moved it up to try to make more people take Georgia. That's just a Vegas trick. I think they cover. I think, obviously Longhorns, maybe it's my blinders on. I think it's going to be a close game. I think they win by a touchdown.
Well, I'm not a Texas guy. I'm a Texas A&M guy, but I still take Texas here. I think they cover. I take the over. Texas is one of the
over.
Texas is the best college football team I've seen in a really long time, top to bottom, all facets of the game.
Yeah,
they are a really exciting team.
They're a really deep team, and at this point, like I'm not say take out Ewers, put in Manning. I mean, I like his experience. He went into Alabama and won last year. He's played on the big time stage, but I'm not that worried if you have to go with a backup quarterback. I think Arch Manning might live up to the hype. I think he could be one of the best college quarterbacks to ever play, just from what we've seen, thinking he's only had a couple of starts. He doesn't have that much experience to playing on the big stage. And yeah, I know he's had little bits where he struggled. And that's what if you want them to struggle, or if you want what you want to see in the inexperiences, yeah, they're going to struggle. That happens, but they're also it's not like they're just bad. They're either going off and running for a 60-yard touchdown, bombing it for a 50-yard passing touchdown, or throwing an interception. Like that's how it works. He's not struggling.
I'll tell you
he's just making mistakes.
The key to this, and what I've seen with Texas, Steve Sarkisian. Sark has been the difference.
They finally got him a good. I remember his first year when they had a huge lead on Oklahoma. I think it was that year they were up 21-0 or something, 24-0, and then they lost the game. And people were saying they might as well fire him. He's lost the locker room. It looked like the team had given up on him. And then the rest of the year, that's what it looked like. Texas just wasn't performing well. They ended up, because it was a Texas's back year, just like many others, undefeated going to Oklahoma, had a big lead. They lost. And then they were losing they lost like TCU and a couple other games. It was barely beat Texas Tech that year in an off year for Texas Tech. And I was like, I don't know how you keep them, but credit to Texas boosters. You mean, usually you don't, we're talking about Cowboys and Texas, big schools, they don't make the best sound decisions because they're thinking more about money. They stuck with Sark and it's panned out. I mean, Texas has always gotten the best recruits.
Yeah.
Just like most, Ohio State, even Texas A&M, you're going to get the best. You're going to be top 10 recruiting. It's how you put it all together. And Mac Brown did a good job. And I think Mac Brown kind of got laxed, just being the guy for so long, and it just kind of went away. Then they really struggled to find their next Mac Brown.
Yeah.
With Charlie Strong, but yeah, I think Sarkisian's the guy, and I finally got his name right. The first year I could not pronounce his name for the life of me. I would never be able to say it right, but I agree with you. That's the difference right now. And I think honestly, it's Texas's championship to lose at this point, because there's not another team, not that there's not competition. I think it's like they're the only ones that haven't squandered and lost. Alabama's lost a game. Georgia has lost to Alabama. They got down by a lot.
Texas has won in convincing fashion.
Yeah,
there's been no situation where they just haven't performed.
The only time they trailed was a 3-0 lead Oklahoma had.
And you expect that in a rivalry game.
Yeah, and they trailed for like 2 or 3 minutes, and that's it. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, they haven't played anybody, sure. I mean, they haven't been playing a cupcake schedule. They played Michigan and they played Oklahoma, but they beat them in convincing fashion. Like you said, it's like, well, they're not struggling, and they've had times they have struggled, but they haven't had a game where they haven't won by double digits.
I mean, really, off the top of my head, I don't know that Texas, there's another exciting game we see from them after this week until Thanksgiving.
A&M. I think that's going to
only because it's a rivalry game.
And that one may not live up to the hype in the sense that, rivalry games usually end up like that, like anything could happen. But that's because you're so familiar with the team. I mean, these teams haven't played in a decade, so I don't know what to expect. I have no idea what to not live up to the hype like Texas is going to blow them out. I just don't know if it's going to live up to the hype where it's going to be a good back and forth game where the two coaches don't know each other that well. I mean, they have, unless their background where they have fought a bunch of times, but played against each other. But it's kind of a whole new rivalry game now. We haven't had a precedence for this where you have a huge rivalry game like this go away for 10 years and then just come back. That's why tickets are so expensive. This is going to be a circus. Hopefully it's a great game. I hope A&M wins out till then, because I want it to be like a top 10 matchup. I want it to be a really good game.
I mean, there could be some SEC championship implications.
Yeah, because both teams are undefeated in the SEC. that might be to go to the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
That's a lot more to look. I mean, we're still early in the season. My God, who knows? We've seen so many teams tripped up already this season. Hopefully, it doesn't happen to Texas. I'm hoping, and I'm hoping A&M makes it there too. We also have number 21 SMU at Stanford. Just bringing that up because SMU local school here, and I gotta say I just gotta complain a little bit. That's a conference game, ACC, a Dallas, Texas team, and a team from California in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Okay, staying with college football real quick, just running through here. Last week when Oregon played Ohio State, we now have what is known as the Dan Lanning loophole. 10 seconds left in that game. Oregon has 12 men on the field as Ohio State's trying to get into field goal position down by 1. They throw 12 men on the field, whether on purpose or not. I think the pass was incomplete. A 5-yard penalty. but they don't get their time back. So 4 seconds went off the clock. Only 6 seconds left. Quarterback for Ohio State runs it, slides down, pulls a Dak Prescott, no time left on the clock. Now, Dan Lanning in the press conference said he meant to do this, whether or not. I mean, I think if you accidentally discover something, you're gonna be like, hell yeah, I meant to do that. It's pretty genius if he did, where just throw 12 men on the field or 13 or 14. Like, what are they? At
If
what
that's
point?
the case, that is the most clock management, game management coaching decision I have ever seen. In that time, in that scenario, to know what the rules are, to know the depth of those rules, to know that this is not a pre-snap penalty. The time doesn't go back on the clock. They lose the time.
You said, guys, just don't let them gain more than 5 yards. They're going to waste at least 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
5-yard penalty, which we can afford. They're not going to kick a field goal. Just, we're going to put too many people on the field. Don't let it, because that'd be even more embarrassing. They score on us when we have 12 men. I don't know what the limit would have been. Like, I know they changed the rule. We'll get to that in a minute. But if you put 13, 14, at what point did the refs blow the whistle and be like, okay, we're not doing this, you know? But 12 men's believable where you're not paying attention. In the moment, I'm watching this game. I
don't know that I would have said that I did that purposely, because then I think that's why the rule changes.
Well, I don't know. I think, I don't know who discovered this. Dan Lanning, well, who brought it up. I don't think Dan Lanning had any, if he did it on purpose, I don't think he had any intention of saying this out loud. I think somebody asked about him in his press conference. Kudos to whoever figured it. Maybe an Ohio State fan saying, hold on, wait a minute. In the moment, I watched this game live and I thought, man, what a terrible penalty. How can you, in this moment, and then it was a 5-yard penalty, and I'm like, okay. But my mind, I'm not a coach. My mind doesn't go to, man, that sucks for Ohio State. That sucks.
And then you look at it, you have what was it, 4 seconds left, 6 seconds left?
It was 10 seconds. They run the play. There's 6 seconds left.
So you've got,
and they
one
did have a timeout, but they didn't. They quarterback rush slid a second too late. I think he could have slid a little bit sooner, called the timeout, and they would have been in relative field goal position. They were at like the 40-yard line. It wasn't a ridiculous field goal, but maybe
also for Dan Lanning to know what their kicker was capable of.
Yeah,
to know, a lot of kickers could make that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly convinced Dan Lanning knew. I mean, in that moment, I would have been like, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. Why? Of course, because if you get that penalty, and let's say that happens to the Cowboys, they get that penalty, and then they kick a field goal to win the game, we're just destroying Mike McCarthy for his bad time management or not having people ready, to go. You should never have 12 men on the field.
Give me Dan Lanning in Dallas.
Dan Lanning,
Jerry. Dan Lanning to Dallas.
I think that's the funniest thing. He didn't mean to do that, and that kind of thrust his career up.
Yeah.
Where it's like lying on your resume. The new rule, by the way, they did go ahead. That this is interesting that they changed a rule like this mid-season. The new rule will give the coaches an option to take the 5-yard penalty or return the clock, time to the clock. So in that situation, I'm sure Ohio State said, let's just reset. Let's do the play over again. And then depending on if clock's not an issue, you get you 5 yards back. So I think that's the correct way to do it. But,
that still doesn't solve.
It doesn't.
In that situation, if I'm Dan Lanning, I think I still put 12 men out there, make them make the decision. Do I want to back this up the 5 yards and take the few seconds back? Or do we want to take it, lose the time, and gain the yardage? You know what I mean? Like I don't think this is an advantage for the offense.
That's not an easy decision either.
No,
it's just giving them the opportunity to reset. And I guess if you reset, you're not ballsy enough to put 12 men on the field again. I think the rest would kind of be like, you can't do that. You got to stop, because one time you can kind of, and I'm sure we'll see it. I'm sure we'll have coaches attempt something like this, keep this thought in their back pocket. And then by default, you're thinking, okay, 12 men on the field. Let's take that. Like in the moment, you got to think, okay, well, that took time off the clock. And it might panic coaches to say, yeah, let's just reset. Let's go back.
And for him to say in this moment, well, I guess they took a timeout before this play happened before
Yeah,
the
they
12
took a
minutes.
timeout. That's why I
So
think Dan Lanning might have known what he was doing because he took a
yeah.
timeout before.
Because how
And
do you don't just run a guy onto the field and then he'd be like, "No, no, no, somebody's gotta come off. We have 12." Like, for his guys to
typically,
go
that's
out
what
there and
happens. You're
realize
changing personnel. You only have 30 seconds to figure it out. You
yeah,
call a timeout, and then you still have 12 men on the field. That's why I'm like, okay, it's believable.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pick one way where I think for sure he did or didn't, but man, it's brilliant if he did. Um, it kind of sucks that they took that. I guess they need to take that rule away. It's fine until it
How
happens
many
again.
how many coaches, the next morning are thinking, "Damn it, why didn't I think of that? That is a
And
great plan?"
yeah, it's something so simple like why didn't why didn't I think of that? It seems like it's so simple that you would do that, but
Because one, you're giving yourself an extra man to help defend that play to make sure it's not a big gain, that they would just take the yardage instead.
yeah, it it's genius. It's genius. Somebody figured it out regardless if it was Dan Lanning. Somebody brought it up. Running out of time. And one more thing to talk about here. College football still are surprising undefeated teams. Army is 6-0, ranked 23. They're hosting East Carolina today. 5 AV, they're 25th ranked, hosting Charlotte. And 6-0 Indiana, ranked 16th. They're hosting Nebraska. That one's probably going to be a pretty good game. Nebraska, decent team this year. We talked about Army, Navy, possibilities of that. You know, I hope it keeps going. I know they both play Notre Dame, so unlikely that they finish undefeated. But I like all the notice Army and Navy is getting about possibly playing Army Navy game, conference
Mhm.
championship games, could be playoffs. It's just fun. And fun fact: Indiana and Army are the only two teams that have not trailed in any game this season.
Wow.
There you go. Talk about cupcake, whatever. Indiana, I haven't seen their schedule, but they're in the Big Ten, so they're going to get challenged. What if they finish undefeated, they deserve every bit of the playoff.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Off on the Peak One Sports Network or the Coach's Box, or if you're listening, however you listen to podcasts. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Saturday. Hopefully your team wins today. And we'll see y'all next time. See you guys later.